6 a.m. on the East Coast. We began with the Fox News alert. This is Fox and Friends Weekend. The desperate search for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie entering its third week. Investigators are coming through every video and chasing down every lead, but still have not narrowed down on a suspect.
We are awaiting the forensic results from Friday night's massive police operation at a home that's just 2 miles away from Nancy's home. That operation led to 4 people being detained, but then released. While officials say everyone who was questioned is cooperating, there are still no signs of Nancy, and we can expect more law enforcement operations in the coming days.
Authorities are now turning to the sky, implementing a high-tech Bluetooth scanner on a helicopter in hopes of detecting Guthrie's pacemaker. For the latest on the ground, let's go to Alicia Acuna, who is live outside of Nancy's Tucson home. Good morning, Alicia.
Good morning to all of you. Regarding that Bluetooth scanner, we have a couple of videos to show you of the law enforcement helicopter that was hovering over Nancy Guthrie's home. Fox News Digital found out that investigators were using a Bluetooth scanner placed on the bottom of the aircraft to detect Nancy's pacemaker, and this from February 3rd. It caught our attention that day because this helicopter was flying so low to the ground and appearing to concentrate on specific areas around the property. This, as FBI and sheriffs conducted a court-ordered search warrant on a home about 2 miles from Nancy Guthrie's home on Friday. 3 people were detained at this location, and a man was detained at a traffic stop at this Culver's restaurant. The Range Rover he was driving was searched and towed away by authorities. All 4 people were ultimately released. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos in a statement saying, "I'm guessing anyone at the residence was detained, but that is standard procedure to allow investigators serving a search warrant freedom to conduct their search. I was not at the scene, and I'm sure people were detained, but no one was arrested. And more importantly, no sign of Nancy was found." And that is the key point here as we enter into week 3 of her abduction. There is no sign of her, even with 30,000 tips sent to law enforcement and a $100,000 reward for her safe return and arrest and conviction of whoever did this. Now, Rachel, you mentioned the sheriff has also said that they are still awaiting test results on the forensics that was done on that Range Rover and from that search on Friday. But as it stands, no arrests, no persons of interest. Back to you.
Alicia, listen, I want to hear a little bit more about what this Bluetooth scanner does, but more importantly, why the heck are we in week 2 and they're trying to locate her through the pacemaker? If they had that technology, why wasn't that used on day 1?
You know, Rachel, I'm not sure that they're just now starting to use it. It may be that we're just learning that they have been using it, because that video we showed you from February 3rd when they were hovering, that was 2 days after that she was reported missing. And it was striking, I will tell you, that day. And I think we even maybe talked about it on the air because it is so low to the ground. Right. And it was just kind of sitting there. And we just assumed that they were searching, right, that they were looking for something. It never occurred to us at that moment that they could have something trying to pick up her pacemaker.
And so the way obviously this works is the way the pacemaker works. The pacemaker has its own power source, and no matter the condition of the heart or whether or not or the position of her cell phone, that Bluetooth is going to be pinging to connect with something. Kind of walk us through how that would work.
Yeah, and I for sure am not the expert on pacemakers. John Roberts, I do know, is, because he has one. But from what I understand, I mean, the technology stands on its own. It has its own battery. There isn't a concern that it is going to expire, at least not right now, in terms of the pacemaker battery. And then there's an app. It's connected. It's got its own homing device at the home. And we do know that that's separated. But in terms of how much they can gather in terms of locating her, perhaps this Bluetooth can help, because if it picks something up, then that's hope, right? That's the possibility.
It's like your earbuds that are always searching, even if it's not connected to, Griff's phone.
Right.
My earbuds are going to be like pinging to him.
So has this been going on? You said they started, you think maybe in day 2 using this. Have they been doing this throughout the last 2 weeks, or is there an uptick in this use?
So we did see them early on. We haven't seen the helicopter on a daily basis in that kind of pattern, that low to the ground, Rachel. But we do know that when there have been searches in other areas around the Tucson area, the helicopter goes out there. We haven't seen it because we weren't out there watching to see if they were also low to the ground and using that scanner to try and locate her. But that would make sense, right? If they believe that they're actually looking for her location and maybe not necessarily a suspect, that they would, use this scanner to try to see if they can pick something up. It's the closest thing they have to some sort of, location device that you have, kind of like what you have on your phone.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alicia, let me just ask you one thing about what Sheriff Nanos has told us yesterday, obviously about the operations that happened, but then he said also that expect more law enforcement actions. I'm assuming we really don't have any idea what that means. Is there any more detail you can add to that?
Yeah, I found that statement, Griff, to be very interesting when you consider we're 2 weeks in and we've seen law enforcement activity every day. Right. On this case, we've seen, members of law enforcement just walking the streets of this area. They've been searching in the terrain. They've been at this home. They've been at Annie Guthrie's home. So I wasn't sure if he meant we're going to see even more of that or if there's going to be something different. He did mention, however, that, we see a lot, and you've noticed a lot of the action that we've seen happens later in the day. And he kind of alluded to that when he said that, they're working on leads and they're working on tips, and then we'll see them kind of the SWAT team, for instance, get moving. So that could be what he was referring to. But as far as I understand, ever since the day she's been missing, they've been working on this investigation.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah. All right. Alicia Acuna, thank you very much. We'll be checking in with you throughout the morning.
Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so with yesterday's frustrating end with the release of those 4 suspects, or not suspects, but subjects of interest, police are obviously left to this Bluetooth device search operation. But also, we're left with the original photos that we got about a week after from the doorbell cam. And we've got this first one. What's kind of interesting is you have these first 2. One where he's not wearing his backpack and one where he is wearing his backpack, leading people to believe that this may have been taken at 2 separate times. Obviously, police probably have, it's safe to assume, a better idea about the timing on that, but police have not released the timestamps for these pictures. In particular about the second one where he's got the backpack and he's got this very strangely strapped gun holster that is on the front, which is a place where most people do not carry, most experienced gun owners do not carry their firearm. What's also kind of interesting about it is it's a holster designed for a revolver, but it appears to be some kind of automatic weapon, maybe it almost looks like some kind of Ruger 22 plinking automatic handgun. But what's also kind of interesting is if you look at the bottom there, it looks like the end of the barrel is kind of sticking out of the bottom of it, which has led police to think that maybe this holster might be a very important piece of this. One thing that's interesting, I think Fox News Digital found this holster at Walmart, but what's kind of interesting about it is this thing is black, and most of the ones that you're familiar with seeing are a tough black canvas, whereas this thing looks like it's white. That may be an issue just because of the lighting with the way the doorbell camera changes the light. But probably a significant piece of information that police are still looking for. And then, of course, as we talked about yesterday, also the backpack worn by this person in these pictures is an Ozark Trail hiker backpack. Which is fairly commonly found, but as some of the detectives have pointed out, it is, with online shopping, it's a whole lot more difficult to sort of pinpoint that because you can get that stuff ordered to you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.